Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We will go ahead and call to order our budget hearing. So Sheila, can I please get roll call?
Skip Baltic,
Present.
Angela Blasey,
Present.
Justin Thompson,
Present.
Joanna Lynn,
Present.
Emily Garrick,
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
All right. At this time, we are going to turn a little bit of time over to Dr. McDonald to start us off with a presentation here. And then after that, we will open it up for public comments on the budget hearing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. First and foremost, thank you for your collaboration as a board at the last committee of the whole.
I can.
I appreciate your questions. Hopefully I provided enough historical data and insight and information for this budget for the 25-26 year. I would simply just note at this time that the budget hearing and budget summary was properly advertised, and all the information that was presented is accurate as it is presented today. As far as just the budget hearing and budget summary, within that document, I would just like to point out that the funds that are impacted by local, state, federal receipts are and the property taxes allocated after those receipts come in are the general fund, which is obviously the main fund for the district. The bond fund, which we don't have any currently any tax asking with the bond fund. The special building fund, this year we aren't asking any taxes with the special building fund that's allocated in there for any cents. And then the qualified capital purpose undertaking actually has two functions. One, it would fall within the $5 levy limit that the state provides. But if you're using it for bonds, which we're using it for safety bonds for the next 2 years, and that's what we utilize the qualified capital purpose undertaking for at this particular point in time. So those that request is going for the payoff of those bonds at this time. So the other funds that are up on the screen now that are non-taxing funds would be depreciation, employee benefit, contingency, the activities account, your school nutrition account, your cooperative fund, and then your student fee fund as well. Those are your non-taxing funds. So with that, I really don't have anything else to present at this time.
Dr. McDonald, would you comment on the difference with the QC PUF on this notice, this published notice, and what was presented at the committee of the whole a week ago this past Thursday, please?
Thank you. Appreciate that. So with the qualified capital purpose undertaking fund, we currently have $461,000 and some change within that account. We had two bonds to pay off, and we have one bond to pay off in two payments, and that's $520,000 for the bonds themselves, plus the interest. It's about $527,000 in that period. So the asking amount is to cover those two bonds, and then also to help us with some of the safety and life safety codes that we still currently have within the district around our campuses.
And that from what was presented at our last meeting, so those who may have followed the minutes and those things has decreased now by roughly 400,000.
Right. We were at that point at 500,000. I'm sorry. And then we're asking for 100,000 right now to cover those bonds.
Okay, perfect. I think we just want to make sure that people know before we open the budget hearing that there has been a decrease of around 400,000 from that initial tax request that was presented at our last meeting. So, okay, perfect. Does that clear up the information? Okay. Thank you. All right. At this time, we will open up public comment to hear support, opposition, criticism, suggestions, or observations of taxpayers relating to the proposed budget. So just to be clear, we do have to stay on topic for the budget hearing here, but you do not have to fill out a card in order to speak. So if you wish to speak, we'll just have you come forward here to the table. You will need to say your name and your address, and then you'll be able to share your comments, concerns, questions with the board. All right. Do we have any public comment for budget hearing? Okay. Before I close this, all right. Come on up.
Greg Renner, 19124 Osage Court, North Platte. I was glad to hear that you opted to not ask for an additional 5%. I think that the budget this year, going by what I've seen at a 13.9% increase, that's over 400%, 4 times the rate of inflation. I don't know how you came up with that number. Property tax levies, no levies. I just know that the property taxpayers in Lincoln County are being beat to death. I know Justin's an insurance agent, but the property taxes, oh, he's not? Okay. Well, anyway, the property taxes and insurance on my home, for a home that I own, I pay nearly $2,000 a month. That doesn't include the other real estate I have in Lincoln County, stuff that's gone up $400,000 or $500,000 in value to the county in a year each, which is a heck of a windfall for the school system. The thing I notice is all of these TIF projects that have been promised to lower our property taxes have not. In my mind, the government has the ability to tax us, and they're going to take everything they can whenever they can, and they do. In a typical day for me, I see at least half a dozen homeless people here in town living in their cars. I see the meth addicts, the fentanyl addicts. Just yesterday, a recent graduate from the school system here had a mental breakdown at her job. I have a kid at one of my construction sites, not an employee of mine, but a subcontractor. He's 18, gets out of school to go to work at noon. He can't even read a tape measure. I would put 99% of the students in any school system in Nebraska right now could not read an analog clock, a tape measure, and could count change back out of a cash register. 3 things that anybody my age would have known before we were 6 years old. For the amount of money that we spend to educate our students, we're getting a very poor product. Mental problems, health problems, weight problems, and no skill and no education. I expect better for what we pay. And I think pretty much every taxpayer, not only in Lincoln County, but across the country, expects better. And I hope you all remember that. You know, what we pay, I can tell you, I don't remember a single administrator my entire school career. I remember every teacher and every principal. That's where the money should be spent, not fancy buildings, not the latest tech gadget that makes it so a student doesn't have any critical thinking. They punch in a number and they get an outcome. I want to see them actually do it in their head. That's what an education's for. I don't care about the buildings. And same thing, this isn't a competition between Kearney and Grand Island and Hastings and Norfolk and it's not. The thing that your entire job is to educate the children. And I just expect that to be done. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Do we have anyone else that wishes to speak during the public comment for our budget hearing? We will have a separate tax request hearing. Awesome. Come on up.
All right. My name is Emily Whirl. I live at 1307 William Avenue. I didn't necessarily have anything prepared to say, but just after hearing comments, you know, if our schools are not living up to expectations, I don't understand why we wouldn't accept that 5% increase or want to invest more in what we're doing. As a parent with 3 kids in the schools, I actually think differently. I think we have amazing teachers. I think my kids are getting a quality education. I think it makes no sense that we would hamper what the schools can do in the future for our kids. We're also looking at exceptional growth that's going to go on in the city of North Platte. We know this is coming forward. We've got to be prepared as a school district for this. That 5% matters, okay? And I just looked it up. Kearney passed that in July. Why in the world aren't we doing the same? Let's keep up with other school districts across our state who I feel is doing a great job. I think we've always looked to Kearney, not only how they've grown economically, but their school system. And I'm like, let's do this too, okay? So anyway, I think if we have students coming out of North Platte Public Schools that struggle with different things, why are we cutting funding? Let's invest in our young people and let's make a difference. Okay, I want all kids across North Platte to have a quality education. I understand I come from a upper middle class, okay, family. I get that. But my heart is that any kid that comes through our program has the best opportunity possible. And so I plead, like, please put this budget through and please look at that 5%. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Emily.
I'm Suzanne Donnelly, and I'm at 2028 Wright Avenue. I actually substitute in the school district when I'm not having my knee surgery. And I want to say that I think we have excellent teachers. I think that we have mismanaged the priorities of what ag producers are expecting versus what non-value added support services are expecting. And I came out of the Naval Air Warfare Center Weapons Division. We budget multi-million-dollar weapon systems on aircraft and ships. And we look at value optimization, not cost minimization. I just did about a 36-page document I sent off to the ag producers out here, the senators. And I said, you got to start looking at, when you're an operator as a cattle person, when I look at cattle people, I didn't do the farmers. I have two indirect costs. One of them is support services that add no value to my operation, which would be like restaurants in North Platte don't add any value to me because I don't really use them. But the people who use them come and bring their families. They have children. They need to be educated. I have children that are on my ranch that need to be educated. I want them educated for next generation's ag producing. That's value added. So I don't understand why we have business classes we're still teaching that aren't moved over and leveraging technology, where you can have 10 business teachers, maybe even within a region, and they teach all the business classes throughout all the schools in that region. Because we do battle space from all over the world. We have signals in Romania that we move over to Africa, and we do them all over. And we only have maybe one or two training centers these people show up in, and they do all those battles going on. And I understand that sometimes you don't have the fiber optic and all that, but now you're looking at a systemic problem. And until the education leaders start looking at a solution that's systemic and incorporates partnership with the ag producers, you're going to go round and round and round. And I also fail to understand, you're going to put millions of dollars into a reading situation, but the very people who create it, how can they solve the problem? I don't get it. Because these are the very people who wanted to move from this type of reading phonics over to here. And I'm like, no, somebody has to, I look into Mr. Rhodes, bring your A game, and you tell them, we got a systemic problem here. We got our Chamber of Commerce who's trying to bring in non-support. We're asking ag producers to support non-value added services. We got to look at technology. We got to leverage things. We got to start moving this stuff off of their plate. Or what my proposal was is that you decide, you drive it. Cattlemen, ag producers, you drive the solution. If they're not going to get on board with it, here's how you're going to do it. And you're going to tell them, per student, I'm only pay this cost for this amount of money and overhead for my support services that are value added. This is my indirect overhead costs for support services that are non-value added. Because even in the Chamber of Commerce, oh, we want to grow this, we want to grow this, we want to grow this. The bottom line is, sometimes we're asking ag producers to support city services that they don't even benefit from. So, and you have to start looking systemically, and you can't have this adversarial relationship. And if your budget, you can get it slimmed down, because the federal government, we budget all the time. We cut budgets right and left. We zero out missile systems that add no value after 5 years because the technology's moved on. I'm saying, look, don't be fearful of technology. It's not going to change your culture. I've been a Christian since I was like 8 years old. Technology's come and gone, and I'm still a Christian. So it's not the technology that you have to fear. It's the moral code that teachers sometimes bring into the classroom. And you have some phenomenal teachers here, and you've put them under tremendous pressure. To one of the things is that these teachers now have to deal with social issues that were never dealt with when I was younger. When I went to a classroom, we didn't have all this craziness going on. We have children that come out of homes that have PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's how the guys who come into the military or into the workforce after they've been out in the military, they exhibit some of the same traits. We work with autistic engineers. We work with all of those problems, ADHD adults. They don't go away just because you're going through school. What happens is you have to look at the science. And one of the things that we do in the adult world is we have a lot of people who read, and I'm one of them, and I'm looking at neuroscience. And I'm like, why are we still asking teachers that are general ed to teach special ed students that aren't equipped at the university level to do that? So now one of your systems is you got to change the way that you do education at the university level. And I'm not talking to it for the whole world. Make the change in Nebraska, because neuroscience from when I was in school to here has gone leaps and bounds. That cell phone issue is a dopamine issue. You have a signal, an electronic signal in your brain that your eye is like a computer. It takes the input in, it has a signal in the brain. It starts with an electric thing. The electric signal creates a chemical signal. The dopamine goes off. Those kids are like reward, reward, reward. And so now when you take those cell phones away, I'm thinking, wow, you're going to have another PTSD moment going on here, because these kids are going to get temperamental and ugly in the classroom. So what I'm saying is it's not a teacher problem. The teachers do fine. It's a systemic problem of leadership decisions at the university level, of catching up to where science is, neuroscience. I'm surprised UNO hasn't leveraged their knowledge in neuroscience to go over to the college there, UNL, and say, hey, land-grant university, you're the people's university. Why are you not taking and putting this neuroscience into your teacher education programs? Why are you not looking at this? Why are you not? You have a lot of knowledge workers. You have an intellectual portfolio that comes from kindergarten all the way to your colleges. You're building that intellectual portfolio. Don't lose it down in here because you haven't made a working relationship or partnership with the ag producers who give quite a bit of money to that. And they're under pressure. Understand the pressures they're under. So now I'm just saying, look at this 360 and do your budgets from that. Leverage technology. They're leveraging technology. They're taking and doing precision farming techniques out there. What are we doing here? Do we really need to teach business in high school the way we're teaching it? Do we really need to teach? I know at the universities, most universities, you can take business online and get a degree with business online. And I understand some students can't do that, but we're failing in so many areas. But one of the areas that we're failing is I believe the ag producers are eventually going to step up and they're going to say, hey, we bring $12 billion into this state. We're under pressure. And we want you guys at the school levels to change. And I think North Platte, your team here, can actually lead that and go and talk to them and say, hey, we hear you. We're going to try to do different things. But I need to see that. When I go to substitute and I'm like, wow, there's just crazy stuff going on here. And I think that you need to look systemically at it. And I really believe Dr. Rhodes raise your voice at the university level and tell them, we need teachers that are educated in, we need gen ed, but we need more than gen ed now. We need special ed, we need PTSD teachers, whatever. Because that's where we're at as society. It's moved and we're here. And I don't want to sound like I'm mean or I'm mad or I'm angry or anything, because I really don't have any skin in this game. I'm just saying I'm crunching numbers and doing data analysis, and your numbers are out there. I just happen to be using artificial intelligence. I just go out and write my code and I pull data everywhere like that. But that's where I'm at. But I'm just like, yo, let's do something different. Ask for your 5%, but show an outcome that's a positive outcome. Show the numbers. Say, hey, Dr. Rhodes, you may be in Lincoln County, but you may have to go say, hey, we're going to change something here in Lincoln County in our school district. And we want the guys up in Stapleton to see it. Do a dog and pony show in South Stapleton and show all of the other ones, hey, you can do this. Let's lead this in a different direction. Sorry, but your teachers, no, you will never hear me complain about your teachers. They're excellent teachers. They're very capable. They just lack some things to deal with students that now socially come out of environments that create PTSD. And at a child level, it's a little bit different to deal with than at the adult level. But we do deal with it at the adult level. Sorry.
Thank you, Suzanne. Do I have anyone else that wishes to speak during public comment on budget hearing? Okay, at this time, I will adjourn. Oh. Yes, sir, come on up.
My name is Travis Griebel. I live here in town. I guess I don't understand all of this, especially because I thought I didn't read up everything, but I guess one thought I have is that if the Federal Department of Education is going to be dismantled, and your property taxes being high would reduce your property value, then perhaps runaway inflation, wouldn't be so bad. And ensuring property value, I would say, is helpful if kids have something good to do. And the billboards and the lights and all the advertising. I think there's plenty of opportunities to go ahead and invest in our future. So there you go.
Thank you. I have anyone else for public comment on budget hearing? Okay, if none, at this time, we will adjourn the budget hearing. And I will now open up the setting the final tax request hearing. So Sheila, can I get roll call again on this hearing?
Justin Thompson. Joanne Lynn Green.
Present.
Emily Garrick.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
Skip Altick.
Present.
Angela Blazy.
Present.
Okay, so again, we have now opened the setting the final tax request hearing. So again, I will turn a little bit of time over to Dr. McDonald, who will present the 2025-2026 proposed property tax request. And then again, after that, we will open this one up for public comment as well. So if this is what you came to speak on, you still will have your chance. So Dr. McDonald.
Thank you again. The notice was advertised in the papers and was properly advertised. This year, there will be two funds that we're looking at. The main one is the general fund for taxing purposes for the 25-26 school year. As it indicates there, the total disbursements for the district were $57,587,507, which is a 1% decrease from the previous year on total disbursements. The property tax asking for the general fund is $31,358,597, which is a well, I'll get to the total here at the bottom. The qualified capital purpose undertaking fund is also indicated as far as wanting to secure funds for our current bond. It's set at $1,100.10, which gives us and brings us to a total property tax asking of $31,459,607, which is a 2.9% increase from the previous year. Our levy then would be set at 93.6 cents per $100 of assessed valuation, which is a 2.3% decrease from the 24-25 school year. So with that, I don't believe I have any more information at this time.
Okay. Dr. Rhodes, do you have anything else you want to add to that presentation? Okay. Thank you, Dr. McDonald. Appreciate that. All right. At this time, the board will allow public comment to hear support, opposition, criticism, suggestions, or observations of taxpayers relating specifically to setting the final property tax request. So because you do not have to fill out a card again for this, I will just open it up just as we did the last hearing. So if there's anybody that wishes to speak to the board about our final tax request, you may come to the front. And again, I'll have you state your name and your address before addressing the board.
Hi, my name is Shreya Agrawal and I live on 380 East Sagebrush Drive. I appreciated the conversation that happened during Committee of the Whole when we were talking about the Property Tax Authority. The Exhibit A that I have really talks about 4 different things, so I wanted to just have that there so you get a sense of what I'm trying to say. We really want the school district to live within its means and respect taxpayers. That's what everybody here wants. But we have to be really responsible for a really big public asset that exists in this community, which is our schools. The school board is the only board here, only entity that is fiscally responsible for this district. If you look at the table, we all have seen it, our levy can be $1.05. We're at 95 cents with our general and our building fund, which means that we're right now paying less than what the state legally allows. So therefore, when we say we're creating a new tax from the board, that's actually not true, and that's not stated correctly. The state already has given us the authority, the school district, to do that. We are just not collecting on that authority. Payroll right now consumes nearly the entire budget. So without these types of adjustments, with the rising healthcare costs, with inflation, we're going to potentially get into deficit spending, which is not sustainable and it's not responsible. The increasing authority does not mean that we're going to increase levies tomorrow. It just gives the district flexibility to respond if there is a revenue shortfall because of inflation, because of rising costs. The district doesn't have a lot of cash reserves. When we looked at the entire budget, we looked at ourselves and we compared ourselves to other districts. Yes, we're low on our property tax authority right now, but our cash reserves compared to those districts are so bad. We were in the maybe less than 5 million, and you have all the other districts at $10+ million starting month at the start of the school year, which means that the district doesn't have a lot of cash reserves. We don't have a lot of reserves for us to continue to deliver on our strategic plan. When we focus on the growth of our community, in the next 2 years, we're going to have more homes in this district, which means that we're going to have a higher assessed property valuation. What that means is if we raise this property authority right now, our tax base is going to expand naturally. We can invest in teachers, we can invest in more classrooms and programs for the new students that are moving in. Let's talk about what happens if you don't act now. So if you're not increasing the authority now because you're trying to save money, it's actually going to defer a lot of costs. It's going to risk larger hikes later for taxpayers when we might be going into deficit spending. Teachers and staff are the largest local workforce that the district employs. If the district continues to operate in a way where we're looking to potentially cutting or freezing pay, that's a lot of people in our community that are going to get impacted. If we don't actually meet the budget that we really want, it can cut back on extracurriculars. We have a lot of facilities that we need to be maintaining. That might not happen. And we have a strategic plan that is really focused on increasing student achievement. We need to be able to put a lot of money in that. Every initiative, teacher retention, student achievement, safe schools, new career pathways, they all require stable, predictable funding. If we adopted a strategic plan but don't allow the financial means to execute it, we're actually setting the district up to fail. So what I urge you to do is think about any decision you're making on the budget, how does it relate to your strategic plan? It's not about whether you're comfortable with it. It's about whether or not our strategic plan for the next 5 years, which is just starting today, is that actually going to be achievable? What I would ask you to ask the district is, what are the biggest ticket items that are going to require more money than what currently the district has? What are the places within our schools where we need to be able to have savings for the next 5 years so that when those big ticket items actually we need to be paying for them, we have the savings in order for us to do that. It's the little additions that every year we're going to be able to make that's going to ultimately protect our schools. It's going to support our students, and it's going to ensure that taxpayers won't face large sudden increases down the road because we weren't able to make this decision today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya.
Kenzie Mulring, 4014 Sequoia Drive. Good evening. I'm here speaking on behalf of the North Platte Education Association in regards to the resolution of the Board of Education to increase base growth percentage to determine its property tax request authority. We surveyed our members. Just when we look at our mission statement, we talk about being a destination school. We surveyed our members, and 52.8% of our members said that they are either they graduated from North Platte, or as one of their spouse or significant other graduated from North Platte. That's over half of the people we surveyed. That's showing in some ways we already are a destination school. The reason you come back to a district is because of the quality of education you received in that district. We also asked them how many of them have their own students, their own children in the district. 72.2% of our members currently have students in the district, have students who have graduated from the district or intend to send their students to the North Platte Public Schools. And we asked why. Because I'm a parent myself. I have 2 children. I have a 5th grader and a 7th grader who have now been in the district. This is their 4th year in the district. And so one of the things we want to know is, why are teachers continuing to send their kids to the school district? Some of the comments included, we as educators in the North Platte Public School System, we are educators in the North Platte Public School System and believe in and trust the mission and goals of our education system and staff. Another member said, if I believe that the education that I provide is good enough for everybody else's children, then I believe it's good enough for my own children. A final comment on that is the extracurricular opportunities available and the Kids Club program available for after schools at elementaries. I would wholeheartedly agree to that. My children have benefited from Kids Club, and now my son being in middle school is benefiting from extracurriculars. The final thing we asked our members is, what has increased student learning? What's working? Some of the things that they talked about were smaller class sizes, the CTE classes, options in all career areas like auto mechanics, medicine, business, education, design. There are also even extracurricular activities associated with them. My children can better prepare for their future careers when they have the ability to explore these classes and opportunities while going to school. My kids can also graduate with an associate's degree because of all the dual credit classes they take. That's a huge strength. As a high school teacher in my previous district, I saw students be able to take welding classes and be ahead. That's a fabulous strength we have for our district. Another comment made was hiring excellent teachers that care, pair support, smaller class sizes, quality curriculum, high expectations, a supportive environment, including counselors and SEL programs, and opportunities for the extracurricular involvement were also stated. And those are pieces from our teachers saying, this is what's working. And those are the people who are in the classroom every day. Our school mission statement embodies the reality that schools aren't like other businesses. Our success isn't measured in dollars and cents that can be graphed on a chart. Our success is determined as our students are given innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to prepare them to be successful in an evolving world. Our failure to accomplish this has consequences for an unknown amount of time. And as schools, we're preparing our kids for a future we don't even know. When I was in high school, I was carrying, in college even, I was carrying around floppy disks and freaked out when I lost my floppy disk. If I held up a floppy disk in a class, they would have no clue what that was. I've been in education a while, but it hasn't been that long. And we need to make sure we're preparing our students to be prepared to meet those changing needs. As a school district, it is our obligation to provide all students with a high-quality education and enable our staff to have the opportunity and tools to achieve this goal. As noted in the discussion of the Committee of the Whole on August 28th, this will not immediately raise taxes, but will preserve the flexibility. While there is not a specific identified need at this time, we need to consider the impact on the district's future. The opportunity is before you to invest in the future of our district and the students and families we serve. I encourage you to vote in support of this resolution while looking for long-term solutions so we can continue to meet our budgetary needs. Thank you for allowing me to share with you today on behalf of our members. Have a good day.
Thank you, Kinsey. All right, do I have any additional public comment on our tax request hearing? Okay, seeing none, I will now adjourn the final tax request hearing. And we will now call to order the September 8th, 2025 Board of Education regular meeting. So thank you all for attending the regular meeting of the board. I would like to remind you at this time that this meeting that school board meetings in Nebraska are meetings held in public, not public meetings. During the public comment section, which we will have again during this meeting, the public may address the board on agenda items and other miscellaneous topics. So Sheila, can I again get roll call?
Joanne Lynn Green. Present. Emily Garrick.
Present.
Cindy O'Connor.
Present.
Skip Baltic.
Present.
Angela Blazy.
Present.
Justin Thompson.
Present.
Okay, and I will read our mission statement, even though we've already actually heard most of it during our last hearing. So thank you, Kinsey, for that. Our mission statement is as follows. North Platte Public Schools is a destination school district and community that embraces innovative opportunities and distinguished programs to create highly competitive advantages for all students, instilling the canteen spirit in an evolving world. The canteen spirit embodies generosity, selflessness, and unwavering support through service, pride, collaboration, and grit. The Nebraska Open Meetings Act legislates the methods by which public meetings are conducted. Information pertaining to this act is posted here in the boardroom. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the publication of the September 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
I'll make a motion to approve the publication of the September 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education. Second.
Notices of Board of Education meetings and hearings are placed in the North Platte Telegraph and the North Platte Bulletin. The agenda is available online at nppsd.org 4 days prior to each regular meeting of the North Platte Board of Education. Sheila, can I get roll call on that?
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Baltic.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Motion passes. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the September 8th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for the September 8th, 2025 regular board meeting of the Board of Education.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Baltic.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye. Motion passes. At this time, please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, we will start our meeting with our communications portion of the evening. So we'll start off with our student spotlight. So at this time, I would like to welcome Mrs. Odell, Mrs. Shinsel. Did I say that right? Okay. Up to the front here in addition to their students. And they are going to be presenting on FCCLA, excuse me. And the students here, let me know if I have these right. I have Emma Mashik, Rebecca, you guys have hard names. Good grief. Rebecca Knipp, I was close. Bella Harwager. Okay, got one. And Emily Odell. So thank you guys for joining us. We'll have you come up here to the front.
Feel free to grab a couple of chairs.
We do have some extra chairs if you need them as well. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
No, you won't. You won't come to the presentation. I'll get the.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
We've all been there.
Yay!
You just introduce her.
Okay. I know, but. Okay, I think we're good now. Okay, hello, school board. We are the FCCLA club. At first, we have Emma Mashik, our president,
Rebecca Kniep, our vice president. Bella Harwager, our secretary.
and of course, Emily Odell as our district representative. And this is the FCCLA club, our organization. Okay, so first, we're gonna define what FCCLA is. FCCLA is a nonprofit national career student organization for students in family and consumer sciences or FCS classes, or for the little older generation, the home ec classes. And FCCLA stands for Family Career Community Leaders of America.
FCCLA focuses on building skills in chapter development, creative thinking, interpersonal communication, and career preparation through projects and community events centered on real-world issues and roles as in the family members, wage earners, and community leaders.
So FCCLA has grown throughout the years. The picture on the left or the right, so with the three people in there with the tie-dyed shirt in the back, Bella in the front, and Emily in the front, that was our national team for this year. Those are the three students that were able to go to nationals and represent North Platte Public Schools on the national level in Orlando, Florida.
The second picture you see is me and my chapter advisor, Miss Odell, after we had just won the new chapter award at our state district competition.
The picture next to it on the top is from our state send-off at our school.
The picture below it is me actually winning second place in my state overall competition in early childhood education and development.
And then the picture on the final next to it, is all the Nebraska people at Nationals FCCLA that either got top 10 in nationals. And we do have a student in that picture, Emily Older right here, got 9th place in fashion design at nationals level. So our North Platte chapter started about 2 years ago as an FCS club instead of an FCCLA chapter.
One student affiliated with COZAD to get the competition experience, and only 3 members were in the club 2 years ago.
Highlights of last year.
We became an official chapter.
So our first actual leadership conference was at Mid-Plains Community College, and it was the district's leadership conference.
Here we discuss details for the 2025 FCCLA year, including where nationals will be held, star competition, and careers in FCS.
The pictures on there are people who attended and people who were not able to make the pictures. And then after the district's leadership conference, we went to the fall leadership conference at the University of Nebraska at Kearney, or UNK.
Here we discuss more details for the 2025 FCCLA school year. Also different opportunities that FCCLA offers, and even got to network with different organizations and people like UNK's Department of Human Sciences.
And that photo is everybody that was able to attend fall leadership conference. So after fall leadership, we went to district STAR events. So STAR events are it's an acronym, and the acronym means students taking action with recognition. So they're FCCLA's competitive events where students are able to turn class learnings into real world projects.
Students spend months preparing their projects. They present their work on a trifold board or portfolio like we're handing out to you now for the judges at the district competition. District Star competition was held in Callaway, Nebraska, and all members were able to medal and move on to state. Here's a list of their competitions. Bella, Hospitality and Tourism.
So for hospitality and tourism, I was supposed to make some form of lodging that involved our district or area. So I made a timeshare on Lake Maloney so people in the middle class could afford a lake house.
And then we had Chloe, who did event management, and I believe she managed
Snowball.
our snowball dance at the high school.
We then have Emily in fashion design.
Thank you. Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me okay? Okay. For fashion design, I had to design and create an outfit and design 2 other outfits and go over the target audience and sizing, pricing, and I had to address a problem in the fashion market. So I did Rainbow Runway, and the problem that I had addressed was a lack of color in the fashion markets.
Then Emma did early childhood education.
In my event, I was given a topic and had to prepare a lesson plan in less than 15 minutes for a select age and group of students with different disabilities or different ways of learning. And then we had Josie in entrepreneurship.
Then we had Quentin on Focus on Children, and he talked about nutrition and how children need to learn about nutrition and nutritional snacks.
And then we had Rebecca in repurpose and redesign.
I took Walmart plastic bags since my family likes shopping a lot, and I made them into reusable items. So I made like a coin purse or like a handbag for like credit cards and stuff. And then I made myself a little college dorm room rug for my shoes. So then after we went to District Star, we held an FCCLA week.
We had a bunch of different games and activities and competitions.
Each day of the week, we posted something on our Instagram page and had the student body at the North Platte Public High School participate in it.
We included prizes and rewards for the students that participated in the daily challenges. Daily challenges included YFCCLA, Random Acts of Kindness, FCS Career Knowledge, a leadership challenge, and for the final, an FCCLA scavenger hunt.
For the FCCLA scavenger hunt, we hit around 6 different FCCLA logos, as the ones you see up there, around the school. The students of the student body at the high school had to go around and see if they could find the FCCLA logos. If they did, they could bring it up to Miss Odell in her room and earn a gift card. It was a first come, first served basis. So then we went on to state after FCCLA week, which we all qualified through district star competition.
State was located in Lincoln, Nebraska. It was a 3-day event. We were awarded a new chapter award. Emily showed off her project in the fashion show. We also presented our star project, networked with other chapters, and some of us also competed in skill events.
Emily, Emma, and Bella qualified for nationals in star. Emma also got first place in her skill event, lesson planning. So state was a 3-day event. The first day we got there was our opening session. So we got to say our FCCLA creed and a few other things. And then the next day was our competition day. We were able to compete our star events with like the portfolios, which are getting passed around, our trifold boards and others. And then our final day, we had skill demonstrations, which Emma did her lesson planning, and we had a few other kids participate. And then we did our closing session. So with 3 people qualifying for nationals, we had a fundraising wildfire, as we like to call it. So we need to raise about $2,000 per person to go to nationals since we were a new chapter and we didn't have much money in our account. So we had to get creative of how we earned our money.
We began by brainstorming local businesses for support, and one of the first was Chick-fil-A, which generously hosted an FCCLA night where a portion of their donations went back to us. We also gathered donations from businesses to run a silent auction at the district track concessions, had a bake sale with goodies donated by families during the spring play, and even sold Dino Nugget plushies for profit. This year, we got a head start on fundraising with the booth at Cars and Crafts event.
So the picture up there's 2 Hydro Flasks donated by Brown Shoe Fit up there. And then next to it is a Rib and Chop House gift card. If you go out, yep, right there. It was $25 to the Rib and Chop House. And then finally, Edward Jones donated a pickleball set. And then, of course, we had families donate goodies to sell at the spring play and other places.
Three of our members qualified for nationals and star events, but only 2 were able to attend, along with another student who competed in a skill event.
Nationals took place in Orlando, Florida, where we not only competed and networked, but also enjoyed special trips to Disney World with the Nebraska delegation and Universal Studios with FCCLA members from across the country.
Our chapter had a strong showing. Emily placed 9th out of 36 and earned a gold medal.
Bella placed 27 out of 72 and received a silver medal.
And Rebecca placed 19th out of 41 in her skills event.
What was your favorite part of nationals?
My favorite part of nationals was getting to meet everybody else there and pin trading. I collected all besides 14 pins from the 50 states and got to meet people from all over the country, such as Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico.
Emily, what was your favorite part of nationals? My favorite part of nationals was the special trips we got to do, but also actually just competing in of itself and meeting my goals that I had set for myself.
Rebecca? My favorite part of nationals was actually being able to go and meet new people. I was able to meet people around from the United States and pin trade like Bella did. I have a whole lanyard at my house with all my different pins on it. But the one thing I actually enjoyed was learning how to do my skill competition. I did the knife skills, and I really didn't know my placings until maybe 30 minutes before this. So I got really excited. And that was actually a nice surprise for me because I did not start learning those knife skills until about a few weeks before. So we did have officer elections for this year, for the 25-26 school year. Last year, we just appointed Miss Emily Odell as our president because, well, she was the only last man surviving from our FCS club.
She's the advisor's daughter, so unfair.
Okay. Students that were interested in having an officer position fill out an application and get a teacher recommendation. They would turn these applications into Miss Oder or Miss Schinzel for review.
So our winners were Emma Mashik as president,
Rebecca Kniep as vice president,
and Bella Harwager as secretary. Each officer elected would have a specific set of duties and values that they would have to follow and commit to, as you can see on the side of that slide right there. There's a lot.
So this year we decided you can letter in FCCLA. Lettering in North Platte Public Schools is basically you earn enough points to the point where you get like a little NP or pins you can put on it.
We have these specific requirements to meet, which ensure that every member participates equally across all areas of FCCLA. This helps us become a well-rounded club with members while gaining experience in a variety of opportunities and organizations that it offers.
So this also helps with people participating in the club instead of us having some freeloaders and making some other people do the work. And then that way we all participate equally and then we all have the equal rewards with it. So we've already started volunteering for this year. One of the C's in FCCLA is community.
A big part of FCCLA is volunteering wherever we are needed. For example, we volunteered during Music on the Bricks. We ran the children's games and activities throughout the night so both the parents and the kids could enjoy themselves.
We are also helping making food pantry bags for this year. So instead of having Walmart unreusable bags that rip and tear, we are making more reusable bags. So then that way the kids can have something they can use. So we have had a tremendous club growth this year. We've had a lot of people interested of our upcoming FCCLA year.
Our first meeting was held September 2nd, 2025. We created our new t-shirts for this year and had a discussion about the National FCCLA Creed and introduced our officers for the year.
So our first fundraiser was Cars and Crafts on August 30th of 2025. We started a little bit early this year because we want to send more people to nationals. At Cars and Crafts, we hosted a booth. We sold cookies that were donated, Dino Nugget plushies that were pre-ordered. You could pre-order like any colors, textures, anything. And then we took pre-orders for Bulldog t-shirts that we will make in a future meeting. So Nationals this year is very special. It's because it is in Washington, D.C. If you do not know, on July 4th of 1776, the Declaration was signed. That was almost 250 years ago, which will be in the year of 2026.
We hope to be able to send more people to nationals this year and are trying our best to fundraise.
Thank you. And there's our Instagram page for any more updates from our beautiful secretary, Bella Hardwager. Does anybody have any questions for us?
So one question I have is, can you still order t-shirts or
Yes,
is that
you can.
closed?
Yes.
That would be the yes.
There, when we have a Nebraska t-shirt, it says "Eat more beef."
How do we order t-shirts?
Email.
Okay.
She's got forms that you can fill out. I want to be sending in order form out to the district here on the line. You can send order Dino Nuggets too.
Yeah, we're only taking orders for Dino Nuggets.
So the other question I had is, do any of you have intentions of going into any of the areas that you have been competing in?
Yes. So personally, I plan on going into early education, and that's why I'm so grateful for FCCLA. Before then, I actually did not know what I wanted to do. But competing in FCCLA and being able to work with children the way that I was able to in FCCLA definitely gave me that motivation to go into that field.
So with the Fall Leadership Conference at UNK, I was actually able to go to a RED Talk, which is basically a TED Talk. And it was with one of the family and career community, one of the family sciences persons there. And we started talking about how like the drugs affect the body. So that helps me inspire me to actually pursue what I want to study in now, which is pharmaceutical research scientist. So I would like to figure out how the drugs work on the body. So that's how FCCLA has helped me with my future.
The project I did was hospitality and tourism. And while I don't work specifically in lodging, I do currently have a job in cuisine, which was another subsection I could have gone into. And part of my competition was that I had to fill out a way that I would respond to like customer satisfaction. And I think that currently helps me in my career, helps me see other perspectives and see challenging situations and develop my like worldview on it.
Any more questions?
Oh, Emily was.
Emily,
I was gonna-
sorry.
Well, I personally don't see myself going into fashion design. I'm definitely going to keep it up as a hobby. And if maybe I'll minor in it while I get a major in college as well. It's very fun for me.
So I have one other question. If there's other students that want to be involved, do they have to be taking the FCCS classes or can they just join?
So you currently do not have to be taking an FCS class. We had a club member actually last year that hasn't taken an FCS class at our school district, and he still did pretty well. So you don't. So that's nothing against FCS classes. But he was the one that did the nutrition for the kids. So yeah, you do not have to take an FCS class in order to participate in FCCLA.
We would prefer if you did though.
I also think it's a good thing because it helps people experience FCS without having to fully commit to it if they are working on one of the career pathways such as CTE. So
You do have to be or have taken or be enrolled in an FCS class to become a chapter officer, however, though. We just want someone, you know, with the experience.
I was curious what that process was like for you guys to become an official chapter. Was there some like work involved in that?
Yes, kind of. Yeah. You had to fill out a whole application, answering a bunch of different essay questions, one of which is why did you join FCCLA? What made you inspired to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I basically approached me about starting this. Feel like it was a club. It was something in association put there before I started, and I was told not to start it. But then the state asked me to start it again, and we have several administrative changes since then. And so I approached Mr. Spatansky, and we started the ball rolling, and things got a mess up along the way. And then I approached Dr. Rhodes about it as well. And we decided, how about we just take it as a club and just kind of walk the path without actually doing it. And that's when we went to district leadership conference. It's just a club, so it was open to anybody. And one of my students was like, I really want to do a STAR project. I'm a senior. What can I do? And I approached COZAD and I said, you're our next closest chapter. Could we go through you guys and we worked together? And she was able to get pretty far. She was fourth in her repurposing design. Shelby, it was third, it's top to advance. Was she third? I don't remember. And so, you know, it was nice to kind of walk the path without actually doing it beforehand, so we could see everything without having to commit, and then we were able to, it made it a lot easier, so when I actually was able to affiliate at the chapter the next year, be able to know a little more going in.
There wasn't as much panic, but there was still panic.
There was still lots of panic.
Still lots of panic.
They were definitely a bit more experienced this year. And
Yeah.
I wish this president luck because we actually know what we're doing this year. It's not our first rodeo now. We really got this going. I'm really excited for this year.
So the gal that actually affiliated with COZAD, before we were an actual chapter, she did repurpose and redesign. She took what my idea was and she made it into a dress. She made a Walmart bag dress, which I thought was very adorable. So I thought I would just throw that out there.
Any other questions for them?
The binders that went around, those were Emma and Emily's portfolios. And this is Emily's rainbow runway. This was the cut that she had to make one like real life sample. And then Rebecca, where's yours? Is it over there? Yeah. This is Rebecca's trifold for her presentation, and this was our other members' trifold for. Most of their projects are either they have to create the project to the project ahead of time. And then they are presenting it to the judges. Emily and Bella will have like a 15-minute speech they had to give about their project. Rebecca Bird was only 5, and Emma's was 10. But they had to have done the project ahead of time, and then they're just telling the judges about it, which was different than what I had. I had helped with skills before, and when they do skills, they go in at state, they do the skill. This is, they do the project ahead of time, they're just telling judges about it.
Sad thing is, I'm a speech kid and I only had 5 minutes, so that was very soon.
Want to do my speech?
Sure.
Give my no friends and I can still do it.
You girls did a spectacular presentation.
Yes, thank you. That was
Yeah.
great.
Great job.
Thank you. All right, we will go on to our foundation report for the evening. And sorry, Terry, you always have a tough act to follow. That's,
Thank you for acknowledging. that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. But the good thing is I'll kind of blend in with them as well. So I'll actually start at the bottom. To benefit FCCLA, as part of our Change Wars that will be September 10th through the 17th, you can support Change Wars either at the elementary schools or at Madison, but we will be celebrating Change Wars prior to the September 26th football game. And Nebraska Land Bank will be at the high school parking lot from 5 to 7 grilling hamburgers that will benefit FCCLA. So please join us there for that. The foundation will provide 70% of the funds raised back to each elementary and Madison school, and then 30% will support the foundation programs. So we're very excited about that. Last month, the foundation board welcomed Andrew Van Velsen to the board. He is a North Platte native, an alum, and a lawyer in town. So he's excited and eager to be serving. We're also gearing up for another year of REACH grants to fund innovative classroom projects across the district that align with the curriculum. We have partnered with Fat Dogs again once this year. The grants will be awarded the second and third quarter of the school year. So basically October through just the beginning of March. It's about 20 weeks. So be watching one classroom at a time on KNOP and be watching for all those updates. Next month, we'll start recognizing employees of the month. So we might be doubled up next month since we don't have any this month. So also just want to thank you to the Board of Education for supporting the foundation's mission of helping students reach their fullest potential. It is different for every student, and we're happy to be able to do the REACH grants and things like that to help the students. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. Okay, at this time, we will now open back up for public comments, but it is a little bit different during our regular board meetings. So I'm going to read this, and then if we have anybody, we'll move forward. So public questions and comments may take place at this time in the agenda. Individuals who want to address the board must complete a guidelines for public comments form. So there's a little form you need to fill out with the date, topic addressing, name, address, and the name of any organization you represent, and give it to the board clerk prior to the meeting or right now. Sheila, do we have any?
I have none.
Okay, is there anybody that intended to speak during this meeting and needs to fill out a card real quick? All right, excellent. We will go ahead and move on then to our consent agenda. A consent agenda, also known by Robert's Rules of Order as a consent calendar, groups routine meeting discussion points into a single agenda item. In so doing, the grouped items can be approved in one action rather than through the filing of multiple motions. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to all board members and the public in advance to assure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. So I will first entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. A second.
Okay, and prior to voting, we will go through the items on this agenda or on consent agenda. And if there are any questions, you will be able to ask them. So 9.1, approve the minutes of the August 11th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Education. That is an updated, oh no, that one's the original. Sorry, ahead of myself here. 9.2, approve the minutes of the August 11th, 2025 American Civics hearing. 9.3, approve the minutes of the August 28th, 2025 Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting, which this is an updated file that's attached here. 9.4, approve the teaching contract of Erica Brown effective January 5th, 2026. 9.5, accept the resignation of Megan Miller effective August 6th, 2025. 9.6, accept the resignation of Laura Staroska effective August 8th, 2025. 9.7, accept the resignation of Kayleen Kuma effective August 15th, 2025. And item 9.8, the approval of the financial claims and reports, which this month were audited by myself and by Justin Thompson. Justin, do you have anything on claims and reports you would like to share or recommendation you would like to make? Okay. Yep, same. We had several questions that we asked of Dr. McDonald and Janelle, but our recommendation would be to approve the financial claims. Are there any questions prior to voting on this consent agenda?
I just have a comment on the resignation. I was disappointed to see that we had 3 at the beginning of the school year. Luckily, we get to see those resignation letters and they seemed like they were pretty substantial reasons. So I hope to approve them, but it was very disheartening to see at the beginning of the
So one of the things we look at when we have a resignation that is after a signed contract is first, Mr. Mills looks at replacements. You know, do we have teacher candidates that can fill that position to the level of what we currently have in those classrooms? And then we look, is there a significant life change? Because those people are under contract for the 25-26 school year. So between Mr. Mills and myself, we do some due diligence just in terms of doing some research to work with these individuals. First of all, we want to be passionate and compassionate to these folks. We are recommending these resignations tonight. They're, in my opinion, and again, I've done a little bit of research on all three of these. There's some pretty significant life changes that are happening with these individuals. So that would be our recommendation.
And I think that was kind of my point is I appreciate that you look into that and that we're able to fill those spots.
Yeah, I wanted to make mention of that too, because I did have some questions about why they weren't already on our last agenda. And I appreciated that instead of trying to rush them on a past agenda and maybe making a recommendation that without all of the information that you took the time to do that. So thank you for that. And I agree, we don't want to make a habit and we hope to not see that next year, but we also want to take care of our people. So, okay, any further discussion or questions? All right, Sheila, we'll call that to a vote.
Skip Altick.
Aye.
Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Joanne Lingreen.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Okay, on to our reports and discussion items for this evening. So following the theme of the evening, we will be talking about our monthly financial and budget report. So we'll turn this time over to Dr. McDonald to give us some updates here.
Thank you.
Am I pulling it up again?
Would you please?
Yes.
First one up there is just on the North Platte Public Schools enrollment data. It's a comparison from September of 2024 to enrollment of September 4th of 2025. Caveat to this is that final enrollment numbers are not finalized until the end of September. So this is kind of a snapshot in time here. And what it does give you is just the percentage of change in all classes at the top. You can see that our total enrollment in September of 2024 was 3,471 students.
Yes.
Currently it's 3,429 students. And that's a percentage change of a decrease of 1.2% across the district. Currently, we have had some new enrollments since then, so that number should look a little different here as we get into the October regular board meeting. It also signifies, it gives you the building capacity again in each of our buildings throughout the district. You can see where our pre-K enrollment currently is at 132 students. So our total students currently for the district is 3,561 across all grade levels. Still any questions that you have in regards to enrollment?
Do we know, because I remember when we looked at this last month, the number from the year prior and the number where we were at this year was a little bit closer together. Do we know if that's because of fluctuations this year, or would that have been fluctuations maybe in the year prior that we saw from August to September an increase? Do you happen to know where those differences come from?
I think mainly it is moving into this current school year. And so we don't disenroll students until we get records requests and those get sent on. So and that's kind of a end of the day Friday afternoon that Kyle Kingston does through our IC program. So we've seen kind of that movement out on those requests for records. And I think as Dr. McDonald said, Cheryl on a daily basis is enrolling a lot of students. So I think there's a difference of about 42 students right now compared to this time a year ago. And I think we're pretty hopeful based on, I think you'll see registrations continue to kind of move forward like they are. And I think you'll see less of the records requests now that kids are back in school in the fall.
Sure. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I just noticed last time, I know we were only like a couple students difference, but I think that that's worth making sure that we note that and that people see those numbers, because I really have had a lot of questions about seeing growth in the community and how that might impact, our enrollment numbers. And obviously we're all, I think in this room, hopeful that increases enrollment numbers. And when we look at year to year, we talked about last meeting that data being more like 100 students that had decreased from year over year. And so I would like to think that we're probably actually starting to see some of that growth in our enrollments already, based on the fact that that's less than 50 students less this year than last year. So I think that growth is kind of already underway, and we've got that information. And I really appreciate, Dr. McDonald, that you provide that building capacity there too, to maybe ease some of those concerns in our public of, hey, we do have room for students to come in, and we'll figure that out. We hope it happens. We want to encourage that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the board? I think with that, Sheila, we'll move on to the depreciation fund. Don't know if it's kind of sideways there.
It is sideways.
Flipped, but there we go. So this wraps up the 24-25 year. As you can see, where we started at the beginning of the year in the red to a positive balance, we can report here moving to the next year of $12,618.35. So that is noteworthy as we take a look at our beginning cash balance for the 25-26 year. And what that represents is, if you actually look in May, May was about $3 million more because of the school credit, school property tax credit. That's not your property tax credit, that's actual school property tax credit, which was another credit given. And so because that amount was roughly $7 million, we were able to capitalize on that in regards to receipts over the course of the 24-25 year. Obviously, again, we had discussed that we moved $660,000 back from depreciation to the general fund that earlier in the year had been transferred into to the depreciation. So we moved those dollars back, and then our expenditures for the month of August were about $700,000 less than they were a year ago. So if you combine all of those, it does help bring us to a positive cash balance moving forward. Again, you can see the line of credit there to the left over the course of the year. If you take a look at the clear to the right, you have your payroll and payables, and that averages out for the year in both of those columns. And then right in the middle in the green, there's that green column all the way down. You can see that we are actually going to wrap up right about 2% under budget. So those are all good signs moving forward for the district. And we hope that we are able to maintain that momentum moving forward for the district. And then at the bottom is the cash flow chart. Sheila, I don't know if you can scroll up. Yeah. So there's your cash flow chart for the year. As you can see, the expenditures are in red and your receipts are in green, and you can see the ebb and flow of what the year looks like. And that's probably pretty true on any given year. So any questions that you would have on the general fund?
Dr. McDonald, would you mind sharing? I know we talked about this a little bit, and Dr. Rhodes, we talked after our executive council meeting to set the agenda, but just about how we're going to kind of change up that process of moving money to depreciation and waiting to do that rather than kind of preemptively moving it and then moving it back, just so that everyone
Sure.
kind of knows what that's going to look like.
So in my experience, over the past 20 years has just been to, you set your general fund as a district, and then you always indicate transfers from the general fund to the depreciation account, because as a district, you're going to have goals that you want to utilize that depreciation account for. For example, could be for school vehicles that have appreciated out and you need a different vehicle or two. You have rooftops, you have different things within facilities that you are able to use, carpet, whatever it might be along those lines. And so some years within the general fund, you get to the end of the year and you don't have those transfers because something happened. You had to capitalize on those funds within the general fund, and then you don't have the transfers. Some years you do, and so you make those transfers to be able to offset and accomplish the goals that you have for the district within strategic plans, facility plans, those types of things on any given year, preventative maintenance, all of those things. So to wait to the end of the year certainly helps the board make a decision so that they can see what the cash on hand is going to be and to be able to make that determination on what was budgeted for those transfers. And if it makes sense to transfer those dollars at the end of the year into the depreciation, and then you can balance that depreciation in those depreciation accounts with some facility preventive maintenance. For example, your sports complex with your track, your football field, you have tennis courts, you have lots of roofs and HVACs, you have lots of interior things that are going on within each building that buildings age, and so you have to take care of them. So those are some of the types of things that you can use depreciation dollars for.
Okay. Do any board members have any questions about that? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next is just your cash flow report. These are the remaining funds for the district. You can see on the cash flow, the beginning balances, your revenues, your expenditures for the month, and then what your ending cash balance is. They're all in the green currently, so they'll have a positive balance moving forward. And then there's some explanations there, excuse me, in regards to moving and transferring those funds back to the general fund from depreciation. And then also to, you can see within the special building fund, there's weathercraft repairs on all of our roofs across the district for the year came out of the special building fund. And so you can see a beginning balance and then an ending balance based on those expenditures there. So those were the two big ones. Any questions that you have on that cash flow report?
I'm going to have a question. Just, this will help aid our discussion a little bit later. So with the special building fund, we currently have budgeted that we will not be setting aside any additional funds for the special building fund for this upcoming year. Right? And so we're starting that with 157,6821. So if we have anything come up that we don't have any projects right now or anything, but say come December, January, one of our heating systems fails or something to that effect, and it costs us more than the 127 that we have in there currently, what can we do to resolve that issue?
Yeah, so I mean, my recommendation would be to utilize some of those depreciation dollars that are in there, but unfortunately that affects where those depreciation dollars are already where they're aligned to within each building and within each facility in those different activities. So we would have to pull from those to compensate for that expenditure at that time. So unfortunately, we would have to pull for those, and then hopefully over time, we would have to build that up if that's possible.
And does that take another vote of the board to be able to move those funds? Or
your special building?
Yeah.
Well, so currently where the general fund budget is that we are at our spending authority for the district without going to the joint public meeting. which, the state sets your spending authority, based on the 2%, 2% every year, 2% growth plus your overall allowable growth. And so we were at 3.56%. Within that spending authority, if you stay within that, you don't have to go to a joint public meeting to say why you need additional taxing authority. The state actually indicated that we, as a district, could be at 33.5 as far as spending authority. And so you could utilize up to that. And so from that standpoint, if you would like to utilize the special building fund for additional taxing purposes to bring in additional dollars to cover some of those types of repairs, preventive maintenance, new construction, whatever it might be that is needed, you could do that up to that 33.5 million, which is, I believe, 6 cents from where we are right now to where the state is telling us we could be.
But that's taking an additional vote from us at the, before our budget is finalized, right? Or is that?
Well, that would, yeah, in order to go to the joint public meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Rhodes, we had to indicate by September 4th.
Okay.
Okay. I asked the question that if the board decides that they're wanting to do something else with the budget after listening to the budget hearing and the tax request hearing, and they decided to do something else, how are we able to get on the joint public meeting if we are going to go over what that spending authority is that is allowed by the district to get to where a portion of or all of, whatever the case might be, to what the state spending authority or what they're actually telling you your authority is, what the max level is. So that is up to, if the board comes back and says we would like whatever into the special building fund, I would have to contact the county and say, here's where we are, probably the state, because those, they're indicating that you had to provide that information early to get to those meetings, which in my opinion is a little backwards from the standpoint that we're having this discussion now. So I would think that we would be able to move that process forward. It would just be some conversation to figure out what that means and how to do that. Because I think we have until September 28th.
Or
the whole, to approve the whole process. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe that meeting is on September 7th.
I think statutory, so there's a couple dates in statute that relates to the LB 243 that was a Hansen bill from several years ago, which puts that 2% growth, and then the other percentage that's factored in is the percentage of real growth and with current valuation. So the first date, as Dr. McDonald said, is you got to notify the county clerk by September 4th. I think by 4 p.m. your intent to participate in the joint public hearing. So we did reach out. It's been communicated that we're not going to take part in that joint public hearing. So I'm going to assume one of the calls we'd have to make would be to the state auditor of public accounts to get a ruling on what that looks like. Whether you could do it after that deadline. And then I think that joint public hearing, I think maybe what you're asking, that falls between the dates of September 17th and maybe the September 28th or 17th through the 28th is when counties have to hold their joint public hearings. Was that the question?
I thought the meeting here for Lincoln County was the 17th.
Maybe they have said it,
Yeah,
but it falls in those parameters. Yeah.
I think maybe what would be good to clarify, because I have also fielded a lot of questions about this too, is just the caps and the limits that are put on us as a school board, because I think we start talking about one and then someone else thinks we're talking about another. And so I kind of view it as like 3 caps. So there's our levy lid, so we can't go over $1.05 with the 2 combined levies, but QC Puff falls outside of that. And then those same 2 funds, you have a growth percentage that you're allowed to grow, which is what, if you go above your cap on the growth percentage, what basically spurs you going to this joint public hearing within the county. But then there's a separate cap that's put on us with our taxing authority. And so sometimes those caps are not consistent with one another. So for instance, we are nowhere near maxing out our levy, which is what Shreya mentioned during her public comment. However, we have maxed out our percentage growth over here without going to a public hearing. So I think to answer your question, we have headroom in our taxing authority. We have headroom in our levying ability in order to put extra money into special building fund through a levy. We would have to, because we've already maxed out this percentage of growth over here, we would have to hold that joint public hearing to surpass that.
Yes, I think you communicated that very well. So remember, when you're looking at property tax request as it relates to what is allowed with growth within LB 243, the starting point is last year's property tax asking. So that's the number that they have at the top of that form. And then there's the 2% that factors in. And then there's your growth rate of new valuation across your district. So, and as Dr. McDonald said, that was 1.56. So when you take that 3.56, that's how we got to the, I think what it actually is was $31,370,000. So that's a part of the statute. But here's where the 5% comes in. That's how you get to the 33,500,000 based on the passage of the 5% a year ago. So that dollar amount increases and you can go up to that, but you have to go to the joint public hearing. So you're not adding to the initial property tax request within that formula by approving a 5%. That additional, it goes in down below and it allows for future growth down the road is the way that works then. Is that understandable?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's important for people to realize there's in those kind of three caps, there are three different methods of being able to surpass them. So the one is the joint public hearing. The other for our taxing authority requires a supermajority of the vote of the board to approve that. Yes. And then as far as to surpass your levy lid, which we are nowhere near, that would go to a vote of the people. And so there are ways to surpass all of those caps, which I think is where a lot of the confusion is coming from, but also a lot of the discussion and making sure that we're being responsible in planning for the future, but also recognizing that there are ways to go past those things. So yeah, clear as mud.
So, and also, Joanne, that the other reason I believe September 4th, because they set the 17th, they have to send out postcards in the mail. And so therefore they have to get those out to the public by a certain date. And so that's why I don't know at this particular point in time how we would fall in if you were to say we'd like an additional whatever for special bill. So. Okay.
As far as to move money from depreciation, like this current school year, after budget is approved and everything's set in stone, I think to kind of fill in the gaps of your question of moving money from depreciation back to where we would be able to utilize it in case of an emergency situation. That, as long as it's within that transferable amount, does not require board approval. Is that correct? Like this year, when you moved money back from depreciation to general fund, that did not require board approval because it was within that transferable amount.
Right, it's transfer of funds, right? That was already taken. So the general supports your depreciation and other funds. You can always move money back to the general within that certain year. But you can't move more back than what you are transferred.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on the cash flow? Okay, the next one is just the bank reconciliation for the month, and I just put that in there simply because I wanted you to see that everything matched within all funds. So, and then the last one was kind of what you had alluded to already, was just those different authorities that we as public school districts utilize and rely on and read up on in regards to the different limitations. I say limitations for schools because we didn't have all of these at one particular point in time. You kind of had your levy, you had local control, local boards decided what they needed, and they at one time would set their levy as to what they needed. Now, we have a tax authority, what we've been talking about in regards to simply being tax authority is your authority to ask for more if you would need it into the future. You're not asking for more taxes now. You're asking for if you would ever need it into the future for something catastrophic were to happen, whatever. You have real growth. You have higher growth. Those types of things. And so that is what the tax authority is. You also have your spending authority, and that's what we've been talking about is where we are currently at with our spending authority, that 3.56% increase. Before you have to go to the joint public meeting, state gives you what your actual authority is, what your max is, and then they also give you the ability to pass a 5% resolution if you so choose, which would be 5% more of what their max authority that they give you is. The next one would be your budget authority. So the state actually sets a budget authority. The state says, here's what your authority is that you can budget for within each and every year. And so they give you that authority that is specifically typically on general fund disbursements. And then what isn't included in that, you can have your total disbursements, but then the state does recognize that you have levy exclusions, which would include your retirement benefits increases across the district. And then it also your special education expenditures count against that. And then you have your grant list that you may have from federal grant dollars that also count against that to get to your budget authority for each and every year. If you can't reach your budget authority, the state is not going to approve your budget. So that's another authority that public schools are up against. And then obviously the last one is your levy authority, which you alluded to. Our max levy for districts across the state is $1.05. You can't ask for more taxes throughout the course of any given school year. Once it's set, it is set, and that is what you are allowed to receive as far as property taxes are concerned, along with the other allowable receipts from local, state, federal, those receipts as well. So those are the four authorities. So I provided that up there, and then the last sheet is just provides just a picture of what that looks like on a diagram, and then gives you an example from the 23-24 you're using those figures and how all of those different authorities put into that process. So.
Thank you for
Any
sharing.
questions with that? If not, I will conclude.
I think one thing I wanted to make a mention of with that levy amount, and to kind of speak to maybe some of the questions about why are we not maximizing our levy amount as well. I think there's a lot of finger pointing when it comes to property taxes. I think a lot of us point fingers at the county because we see valuations increasing, but then the county is saying that the state kind of has their hands tied a little bit, and then the state's looking at us like we need to lower our levy, and it's kind of just a circular, no one's taking ownership for their part of things. And I really want to reiterate, I guess, that I think that us decreasing the levy when valuations increase is us taking ownership of our part of property taxes. And those are uncomfortable conversations to have because nobody loves when their property valuations increase, and we don't control that at all. But what we do control is then what we do with the levy. And I explain it like a basic multiplication problem. It's A times B equals C. And so you have your valuation times your levy equals your property taxes. And so I think it is really important for people to see the pieces of that puzzle and to see why we are decreasing our levy. And that is a part of why. That's the part that we have ownership over and control. And so I just think that probably needs said so that people see that. One other thing I did want to make mention of before we go into our action items, there was an action item on our last committee of the whole meeting for that 5% additional growth to be accessed on our taxing authority. That item received an initial motion, but did not receive a second. And then there was a motion to table it. I will take total ownership of the fact that I am a first-time school board president and didn't really know what to do in that situation. But technically, I should not have allowed there to be a table. When a motion is made and fails to have a second, it dies. And so technically, that item died there on the table. And beyond that, it failed to have a second and there wasn't a whole lot of board favor on the item. So we actually did not bring that back to the agenda tonight because it did not receive a second on the last agenda. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that's why that's not on there. And yeah. Any other board questions or comments on budget finances before we move on to our action items? Okay. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2025-2026 North Platte Public School District budget of disbursements and transfers as presented.
I'll make a motion to request the approval of the 25-26 North Platte Public School District budget of disbursements and transfers.
Second.
Okay, now that we have a motion on the table in a second, we will open this up for discussion. So Dr. McDonald, before we dive into any questions or further discussion on this, do you have additional information that you would like to present to the board or to the public on our budget of disbursements and transfers?
Not at this time. No.
Okay, I feel like you've presented a lot tonight, so thank you. Okay, so with that, board members, are there any questions, comments, anything you would like to discuss before we call this to a vote?
So this isn't for the 5%, correct?
No.
Okay.
Yes, this would be approving the budget. Basically, the budget that we saw at our committee of the whole meeting, minus that roughly $400,000 that was originally on the QC Puff levy request that is now down. So if you'll remember from our last meeting, that original increase on property taxes was looking to be about 1.3 million. That's a little rough estimate, but pretty close. And we had discussed that there was a $1.8 million increase just on salaries alone for this school year. And so that was already showing a little bit of some things being looked at and some discretion being used and some things being cut elsewhere in order to get down to that $1.3 million increase. So now with the decrease on those QC Puff requests, this would basically be roughly, again, these are estimates, but roughly a $900,000 increase on property taxes, which given in consideration the $1.8 million on salary increases, and you all know I'm typically a pretty big advocate for not increasing taxes, but when you have $1.8 million in salary increases, we have to pay our people. And to only be increasing property taxes 900,000 means that we've basically come up with that other 900,000 elsewhere in the budget. And I don't know what more we would ask in this school year of those looking into our budget. So that's my thought. Those are kind of the numbers on where we are at right now. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would mention, and I know we've talked about this before, and Dr. McDonald's done a really nice job of explaining it, is you have federal, state, and you have local receipts, and that's how you fund your school district. Unfortunately, what we've seen the last 4 or 5 years in the district is we've seen a decrease. I mean, it's not even holding steady right now. We've seen a decrease of federal funding and we've seen a decrease in state funding. So state aid has gone down a little bit. I think this year it's down to 250,000, right around in there. We are projecting federal funds are probably down 350,000 right there. Now some of that certainly is based on a per student allocation, both federal and state, but nonetheless, if you can't keep those other two receipts streaming the way that they currently have, you're already down a little bit. So I would just bring that to your attention, and I would agree, the big cost in the big increase in disbursements is certainly salary and benefits as well. But again, I would just say, if we believe in this mission statement and we want to provide what's in that mission statement, we want good opportunities for kids and to give them competitive advantages. I think Dr. McDonald's really developed a budget that's going to do that for the 2025-2026 school year.
I know we did have some discussion about special building fund needs moving forward, because I think I've heard concerns from several board members just about where those current funds are at, the amount that's currently in special building funds, and obviously if we're not levying any additional funds towards that this next year. Joanne, you've shared your concerns tonight as well. So I think that needs to be something that the board's really intentional about in our next year of setting budget. And Dr. McDonald, I know I had requested of you to kind of do a deep dive and present to the board about what those building needs are going to be in years moving forward, so that we can really have a good plan in place to make sure that we have the funds there to take care of our buildings, and nothing extravagant. I don't want to give the impression that we're building buildings and doing things like that, but just taking care of the buildings that we have, so that 10 years down the road, we're not in a bad situation with something that we can't address. So moving forward, I think those will be some really important conversations for us to have as a board. Any further comments or questions?
Well, I guess the other thing that I would just like to say is that we've also tasked the administration with trying to get us to a point where we're not having to utilize that line of credit. I asked Dr. McDonald how many years, and he said we've taken it at least 3. And so whenever we have to take the line of credit, which is usually because money hasn't been receipted yet from the courthouse on people's property taxes. So because we don't have enough in our reserves, we've had to utilize the line of credit, and then we have to pay that back plus interest. And so that's something that currently, where we're having to do that on a regular basis. It's not good stewardship, in my opinion, of taxpayer dollars, because we're having to pay interest when we're on a loan because we don't have enough in our reserves. And so we've been running a pretty tight budget. And while that's good for our property tax, our property owners, it has put us in a position where we're having to make other decisions that are not as fiscally responsible. And so that's something that hopefully we'll be able to get out of, and hopefully we don't have any. We had asked Dr. McDonald, I had asked him at the committee of the whole how long, with the current asking that we have, how long it will take us to get out of that situation. And he told me about 3 to 5 years. And so if we would have asked for more taxes, we probably could have reduced that timeline a little bit. And so I guess, things being as they are, that's definitely one of my concerns, is that we get ourselves, well, one is that we have enough to take care of things that come up, because we know even, in our own personal lives, there's things that we don't account for. We think that everything is running well, and our roof is perfect. And then, there's things that happen. And then also to get the school district to a point where we have enough in our reserves that we aren't having to utilize that line of credit every year, because like I said, it's costing us money. So.
Dr. McDonald, does waiting to move our additional funds over into depreciation until the end of the school year, will that help in that process of having some additional funding there in general fund budget to maybe offset needing to do a line of credit?
Well, we certainly hope so for the next year. You know, for this current school year, as you can see from our cash on hand, we're averaging 4.2 to 4.3 in expenditures each month. And so, thank goodness we have the county treasurer balance moving forward for us in September to kind of help offset that, which is going to be a little bit less because of that school property tax credit that we received in May is going to decrease that amount in September. So, when you look at that, you typically want to be, and the state would tell you, in their opinion, 4 to 6 months out from a receipt to expenditure ratio. I've always gone off of 2.5 to 3 months is kind of where most districts usually end up with that as a goal. So that's roughly about 15 to 16%. And so as you can tell, we have a little bit to go before we get there. So I wouldn't say, when you get to the end of the year and you have a very good understanding of what that cash balance is moving forward, then you can make that determination towards the end of August to say, okay, we know we're going to be at X amount of beginning cash balance. We believe that we want to move, whatever that amount is into depreciation. So if you balance 500,000 and you get to the end of the year and say, we can't do the full 500,000, but we believe 200,000 that we can move into depreciation to cover and help some of these different accounts and activities and buildings within their means and to continue to build upon that. So it gives you a clearer picture for the next year.
But that also means that there may be some things come up that we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but because we do want to make sure that we're not only taking care of our students and curricular needs, but then if there's things with the track or the football field or whatever, that we're able to take care of those too. And so if we're not able to transfer as much from depreciation, then we might have to wait another 2 or 3 years on the football field versus being able to take care of it, in a shorter time frame.
Yes, you're correct.
Dr. Rhodes, do you know, backing up to the line of credit, just because I think that's an important conversation that we keep at the forefront of all of our budget conversations. Do you know, because my understanding was that went back quite a lot longer.
Yeah, I think it does. I know we've
11,
we've
maybe?
accessed it some time ago. I think more recently we've utilized it the last 2 or 3 years, but I think typically we've always had that line of credit with Nebraska Land Bank. It's just whether we utilized it or not. A little bit of context around your question around depreciation fund and kind of keeping the general fund whole. One of the things that school districts can do, and we do this, is you can take all your cash balances and you can use that for payroll and payables. So you can use the reserves that you have in depreciation. You can use special building funds with the caveat that you obviously have to dollar for dollar pay that right back into that fund. And we do that before we ever access the line of credit. So, you'd kind of asked if it helps here, or to a degree it does. I think our priority was building up the cash reserve in the general fund, and that's the reason that we chose not to put anything in special building fund. But I think you have to realize depreciation, you have about 2.7 million in reserves right now in that depreciation. Give you an idea, we had a unit at Adams. I don't know exactly the time of year last year that went down on us. It was about a $40,000 proposition. That was paid for out of depreciation, is where we paid for that out of. So we do have line items within the depreciation fund, but again, sometimes you borrow from them with the idea that you're gonna, pay them back at some point. So I think when it looks at the budget, we would love to have a couple more $1 million or $2 million in the special building fund. But I think we feel like we have the depreciation funds to take care of what we need for a year, get that cash up in terms of your general fund. Now, if you remember a lot of discussion a year ago on that 500,000 that we wanted to make sure was specific to cash reserve. Well, if you look at the ending balance a year ago to where we are now, we've made great strides as a school district in terms of our ending cash balance in the general fund. So we're getting there, but I think that's That's probably a safe estimation, as you're probably looking at 3 to 4 years before you really have what you need in that cash reserve in the general fund, and then you start building up those other funds.
Can you tell me why there's such a big jump with last year's and this year's activities?
Well, the activity is. So the activity, all of those funds are the non-taxable funds. So to create, so within that is just to create more authority for those funds to utilize, because within that, if, you know, the auditors are going to come in and audit the district, well, you can't go over the authority that you're given within each and every year. So if you minimize your authorities and you need something, you can't go over and above that. And so to create more authority within those accounts gives the ability to maintain, you know, those disbursements within activities, or it could be depreciation, it could be contingency, cooperative, any of those funds. You're just putting the authority on there. So it's a non-taxing fund, but you're giving the authority again to make sure that you're not limiting yourself within those funds.
So we're not going to be increasing spending on activities by that amount of increase?
No,
we-
it's just the authority. Again, those funds, the activity, the general fund supports your activities, and the activity supports itself in some regards as well. Just like depreciation, the general fund is supporting your depreciation. You know, any of those non-taxing funds that your general fund is supporting those additional funds within any given year, depending on the transfers. You could transfer into the school nutrition fund if you wanted to. But you want to give them the ability, the authority to make sure that they have the budget authority to operate each and every year. Because if you reduce those and limit those, then, you know, you created an additional problem with the auditors.
My concerns are the, excuse me, is the same as Joanne's. I think I made that pretty clear at the committee of the whole. 81% of our budget are people and fringe benefits. And we're going to reach a point where that is where we're going to have to go to save money. And that is my concern, which I think once we start reducing staff, we start hurting kids. And I know that 5 wasn't going to fly. I knew that after the committee of the whole meeting. My concern is in the next couple of years that we're going to wind up in a situation that is going to be very catastrophic. I really believe that. And while I'll vote for this, because voting against it wouldn't not be good, I think we really, really need to look at what we are doing down the road. We have to pay attention to not just this year, but coming down the road, what could happen.
I want to just thank Dr. Rhodes, Dr. McDonald, and Mr. Simpson, if you were still here, because he's a big part of us getting to this point. I think, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I know my intent in expressing my concerns about budget is never to get us to a point where we are letting staff go or can't fund our staff, or to a point where we can't take care of our buildings or do the things that are really the must-haves that we have to do to give the children in our district a high-quality education. My concerns when I started asking questions about budget several years ago were the other stuff. The other 19% of a very large tens of millions of dollar budget is still a lot of money. And there were a lot of things that, as we can see, looking at the numbers from one year to the next, that were able to be reined in a little bit. And I don't feel that we have jeopardized our children's education in the last few years by trying to be more fiscally responsible. In fact, it seems that looking at our cash balance beginning of the school year, we're trending in the right direction of being in a better spot financially moving forward. And I think that that comes from a cultural mindset. I think that that comes from a place of intent about how we think about finances and other people's taxpayer dollars and being good stewards of them. And it's not coming from a place of wanting anyone to go without. It's coming from a place of making sure that we are set up to take care of our biggest assets, which in my opinion are really the people. And so I want to be very clear. I am pleased to see our progress in that regard. And I'm excited to see where we can go in the future with a shifted mentality about how we're spending money and really prioritizing it to the things that matter. And that doesn't mean that every year after year after year, we need to see budget cuts, but it also means that we shouldn't year after year after year see huge budget increases, that we really need to be intentional with what we're doing with our dollars. So I am in favor of this budget. It's a bigger increase than Emily Garrick would really like to see on property taxes, but it's the reality of where we are at in the world today. And so I don't think that there's currently anything more we could have done to combat that on our end. So I appreciate the work that I've seen from our administrators in prioritizing our people and in taking a good hard look at our budget. And I really do appreciate the time you've put into that. So thank you. All right. If there are no further comments or questions, Sheila, can we call that to vote, please?
Angela Blazy,
No.
Justin Thompson,
Aye.
Joanne Lynn Green,
Aye.
Emily Garrick,
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor,
Aye.
Skip Alton.
All right, motion passes. Our next action item for tonight is to request approval of the 2025-2026 property tax request resolution. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to request approval of 2025-2026 property tax request resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we'll open this up for discussion. Dr. McDonald, do you have anything more to share with us on this in addition to what we saw at the hearing earlier?
I don't think.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any questions, comments, or discussion on this? Okay, call that to a vote. Or read the resolution prior to the vote.
Oh, sure. I don't have a copy of it.
Yeah, it was a,
Okay.
You got it
I
up on
think
your.
it's in your stack.
there was a paper copy. Here, I can get her one.
Okay, that's okay.
I guess while she's getting there, I just wanted to also thank Dr. Rhodes and Dr. McDonald. I know for Dr. McDonald, it's been a little bit of a learning curve with this board coming in and having to deal with the budget immediately. We've asked a lot of questions, both in public and through emails and phone calls, and we've really, as in all years, tried to do our due diligence. And so I just want to express my appreciation for our administration and the work that they've done, because we have not been easy on them. So
My turn? Okay.
Your turn.
Resolution setting the property tax request, resolution number 090-825. Whereas Nebraska revised statute 77-1632 and 77-1633 provides that the governing body of North Platte Schools passes by the majority vote of a resolution or ordinance setting the tax request. And whereas a special public hearing was held as required by law to hear and consider comments concerning the property tax request. Now, therefore, the governing body of North Platte Public Schools resolves that the 2025-2026 property tax request be set at General Fund $31,358,597, Bond Fund 0, Special Building Fund 0,
Qualified Capital Purpose Undertaking Fund, $101,010. The total assessed value of the property differs from last year's total assessed asset value by 5.33%. The tax rate, which would levy the same amount of property taxes as last year, when multiplied by the new total assessed value of property, would be 0.90969 per $100 of assessed value. North Platte Public Schools proposes to adopt a property tax request that will cause its tax rate to be 0.936582 per $100 of assessed value. A copy of this resolution be certified and forwarded to the county clerk on or before October 15th, 2025. Motion, do I?
I made the motion. Skip.
Motion by Joanne Lundgren, second by Skip Alteg to adopt resolution 090825. Voting yeses were Skip Alteg.
Oh, we haven't voted.
Oh,
Okay, now we can fill in those blanks.
She's pulling a Sheila.
Just call me Sheila.
All right, Sheila, let's call that to vote.
Justin Thompson. Joanne Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Alton. Angela Blazy.
No.
Okay, motion passes. We will now take a quick look at our future board calendars. So tomorrow morning, we have Cindy O'Connor and Dr. McDonald on the radio for Mugs in the Morning. Governor's School Finance Commission is on September 22nd in Lincoln. That is a new group of individuals that's been formed. Is that correct? Okay.
Do you know if there's a link to watch their meetings or?
I'll try.
Okay,
I think I saw something on their site, but.
This week from today, we have our first commissioners advisory meeting, and I can ask the commissioner. The commissioner is the chair of that commission, so I'll get some information. I think they are.
I think I remember seeing something
Okay.
about that. Yeah. Yeah. Good question though. Thank you, Joanne. And then of course, we'll be back for a committee of the whole meeting, September 25th at Lincoln Elementary. And then there are some upcoming conferences, the Labor Relations Conference, and then state conference through NASB. So if you're interested in either of those.
Sheila, does the state conference opens this week, doesn't it? The registration?
I think it's open.
Yeah, I think it's open this
Yeah.
week, maybe.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So that is open. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Sandy got it. All right. Roll call, Sheila.
Joanne Green.
Aye.
Emily Garrick.
Aye.
Cindy O'Connor.
Aye.
Skip Altic. Angela Blazy.
Aye.
Justin Thompson.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.